Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the civil war inside the former state of Ethiopia. Yes, the former state of Ethiopia. In conjunction with the Eritrean invited invasion of the Tigray region as well. So I've received quite a bit of pushback, obviously, over calling Ethiopia the former state of Ethiopia. And I'll try to put that into some perspective. I'll try to compare and contrast. I will try to explain briefly, before I get into some ongoing coverage of what's happening on the ground, of why I'm saying that. So first, if you are here in the United States and you are watching what is happening on the ground in the former state of Ethiopia, I will try to put it in terms and context in which you, the viewer, could possibly understand. So let's pretend for an instant. Let's say that here in the United States, the current president, the current administration, had decided, or a future administration, had decided to cancel local elections in the state of Texas. Furthermore, they had banned, let's say, the Republican Party in the state of Texas. Furthermore, the current or future U.S. administration then invited the Mexican army and supporting drug cartels to enter the state of Texas to exterminate and eliminate Republican Party members in the state of Texas, which would be about half the state, if not more, much more. If a U.S. president had allowed the Mexican army, along with paramilitary forces, drug cartel members, to enter the United States to target U.S. citizens, would you still call the United States the United States? Think about that for a second. That is exactly what is happening on the ground right now in the former state of Ethiopia. Not only that, there are many more problems that are occurring throughout the rest of the former state of Ethiopia. Look what is happening right now in western Oromia. Massacres and drone strikes against the Oromo people, against the Oromo Liberation Army. Again, allowing in, right now as we speak, the Eritrean military to cross a so-called sovereign border and conduct political extermination. That's what's happening. As we speak, we are continuing to get more reports on the ground. Places like Shiraro, around Adigrat, Axum, of extermination units of the Eritrean military being set upon the Tigrayan population. Very unfortunate series of events. And you can see now why that this region has fully mobilized and is now saying, no, not again. Happened once, and quite possibly happening again in terms of the occupation of the Tigray region. But right now, the Eritrean army is maintaining its forces to the north It is consolidating its efforts along the B30 highway, again running from Shiraro down to Shire and then over to Adigrat. We have not yet heard of a concerted push to the south as of yet. Now look, things are moving pretty quickly. Things are changing on the ground, so that could change in terms of the deployment of Eritrean forces further south. It could change in terms of the deployment of Abiy loyalist forces, Abiy Ahmed, who allowed the foreign despotic regime of Eritrea to enter Ethiopia. So again, when you allow a foreign force to enter your country, you are no longer a country. You are something else. And that's exactly what is happening. But again, it would appear that the Tigrayan Defense Forces have made the decision to fall back to the central highlands, the hills, south of the B30 highway. They still control positions north of the B30. So again, these positions of the Eritrean Abiy loyalist forces along the B30 highway are in a fairly precarious situation right now. They have Tigrayan forces to their north, Tigrayan forces to their south, Tigrayan forces to their west, Tigrayan forces to their east. When you hear about the seizure of large cities, after the seizure of Shire, the rapid so-called collapse that occurred of the Tigrayan Defense Forces, in which the Eritrean military took control of Axum, Adwa, Adigrat. But a lot of these cities were not contested. The only real heavy fighting that we saw was north of Shire. After that, it appears that tens of thousands of TDF troops proceeded south towards Mekelle and then obviously into the surrounding hills. And this strategy, while I believe that defending the cities, if I was the battlefield commander, obviously may have conducted the war a different way. However, I'm not on the ground. And all I can say is that past efforts by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, that past strategy of pulling out of these cities to then later come back and envelop and then destroy the Eritrean and Abiy loyalist forces worked very well the first time. So in all probability, the Tigrayan General Staff, the Tigrayan Central Command, believes that that same strategy would work again. Is the Eritrean military, is the Abiy loyalist forces going to adapt from the first occupation of Tigray, the first unsuccessful occupation of Tigray, because that was a disaster? The reports, the first-hand reports from battalion commanders, company commanders of the former Ethiopian National Defense Forces, the morale, the inability for those forces to fight the type of war, the type of conflict that the Tigrayan Defense Forces transitioned to, against, again, high-intensity, industrial strength, insurgency, intermixed with conventional light infantry operations of battalion and or brigade-sized elements. Very, very interesting strategy the Tigrayan Defense Forces had employed, whereas the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, the Eritrean Army, were employing, obviously, their mechanized, motorized forces, but their ability to get into these hills and to conduct counterinsurgency operations off-road was very, very difficult, and it led eventually to the Eritrean and Abiy loyalist army collapse inside of Tigray. And there are 10,000 former ENDF personnel that were taken into custody by the Tigrayan Defense Forces as prisoners of war to show that. So we're going to look at part 2, quite possibly. Quite possibly. There are tens of thousands of Tigrayan fighters now, again, south of the B-30 and north of the B-30. I would say at this point, in all probability, the Eritrean army, the Abiy loyalist forces, are hesitant about moving south and then and north towards Mekelle because they are concerned about counter-operations against the forces that they're leaving behind in places like Adwa, Axum, Shire, up here in Shiaro. And you also have to remember, too, the possibility that the Tigrayan Defense Forces could conduct operations, renewed operations, into the Amhara region, the northern Amhara region. Very possible. Something that you cannot remove from the table. But right now we have the political discussions, the quote-unquote peace talks that are underway in South Africa. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. Difficult to say. At this point, I believe that the Tigrayan Defense Forces ultimately will look for a military solution inside of the Tigray region, much like we saw in 2021 with Operation Alula. But this is kind of an updated map. This is where we are right now. Again, obviously not a lot has changed other than the confirmation that Adigrat could be, for the most part, under the control of the Eritrean army. Again, the blue is Eritrea, the red is Abiy loyalists of the former state of Ethiopia, and the green are the Tigrayan Defense Force. But that's where we set for today. We will continue to cover this ongoing conflict. We will continue to bring you what is happening on the ground. And as always, thank you for joining us. And we will talk again very soon. Have a good day.